Hello, Michael. Welcome to Fire at Home. Could you introduce yourself and your project?
Yes, 안녕하세요. I'm Michael, co-founder and CEO of Zero G, also known as Zero Gravity Labs. I started out on the engineering side. I worked for Microsoft and SAP Labs as an engineer and technical product manager, and then switched over more to the business side, worked at Bain & Company for a couple of years, and after that worked for Bridgewater Associates, which is one of the largest hedge funds in the world. Then I moved back to California and started my graduate school at Stanford. There I started my first Web2 company. It's a company called Garten. I scaled that to become a unicorn. It's a top YC company as well, to about 650 people, raised about 130 million in venture financing, and then also got close to about 100 million in contracted ARR. And then late 2022, one of my former classmates, Thomas, called me and basically said, hey, we learned about Bitcoin since 2013. We invested in a number of cryptocurrency companies. 5 years ago, I invested in a company called Conflux, and two of the co-founders want to start something more global scale. Are you interested in meeting with them? And 6 months of co-founder dating later, I basically came to the conclusion that Ming and Fan are two of the best engineers and computer scientists I've ever worked with, and we have to start something together. And that's how Zero G or Zero Gravity Labs came together.
Nice. What a, wild journey. And then, it's really great to have you here. 자세한 설명 감사드립니다. 제로지랩스는 저희가 매일 사용하는 크롬이나 인터넷 익스플로러 같은 탈중앙화 브라우저를 제공하는 프로젝트라고 생각하시면 쉽게 이해할 수 있을 것 같습니다. 지금부터는 사전 질문 시간인데요. 사전에 불개미 텔레그램 커뮤니티 채널에서 수렴한 사전 질문을 총 7개 사전 채택했습니다. 그럼 첫 번째 질문부터 시작하도록 하겠습니다. So this time is for the question section. We have 7 pre-ready questions. The first question is, please explain the world's first distributed AI operating system in an easy to understand for retail.
Yeah, so basically what does Zero G or Zero Gravity Labs do? And basically it's what we call the first decentralized AI operating system. And fundamentally, if you think about what operating systems do, so if you have your phone and you are running Android or iOS on your phone, it basically coordinates the underlying hardware resources and then provides a set of services on top so that applications can be built on top of this operating system for your phone. And so fundamentally, we do the same thing, except that everything underneath is not centralized. It's fully decentralized. And so we have multiple layers. We've got essentially the hardware layer, which is something that we don't provide. We work with partners. Then there's the storage layer, and the storage layer provides, as the name suggests, storage for data and enables data to move back and forth between different nodes of the network. On top of that, we have the compute layer, and then also a service marketplace layer. And those interact heavily together. And basically there, we allow for anybody to register as a node and provide AI services such as inference and fine-tuning, and then later on, things like training as well. And then on top of that, you can build applications, and the applications would be things like a ChatGPT interface or agents that can be used in different types of the applications. So that's roughly the kind of stack. Underlying that also is the Zero G chain, because in order for all of this to work in a decentralized way, you have to, in order to register as a service provider, there has to be a record of it somewhere. And if you want to get paid, there has to be some way of getting paid via smart contracts. So the Zero G chain underlies all of that infrastructure. So that's the simplest way to explain it.
Yeah, so the second question is, one of the most important things about Coin project is the VCs and partnerships that have trusted and invested in Zero G Labs team. Tell us about the VCs and partnerships that have trusted and also invested in Zero G.
Absolutely. We have more than 200 investors in our cap table because we believe in full decentralization, not just kind of on the network side, but also on the investor side, on the projects that are working with us side. And so these investors are all tier 1 investors. They include companies like Hack VC, Bankless Ventures, Alliance DAO, Orange DAO, Umi Cryptos, Symbolic Capital, DAO5, Delphi Ventures, and many, many more. The list goes on quite a lot. So a lot of people see the amazing potential that we provide, because for the first time, it's possible to actually have AI services fully decentralized, fully permissionless, and fully verifiable. So AI fully on chain, essentially. This is the first time that it's possible through the zero-G infrastructure. As far as projects building on top of us, we have more than 300 different types of projects building with us. They range from infrastructure companies like OP, like Optimism, to Outlayer, which is a RAS provider, to Arbitrum, to Movement Labs, and many, many more on the infrastructure side. Also on the consumer side, we have a number of apps, things like DeFi Layer 2s working with us. We have Shrapnel and Blade Games on the gaming side, and many more such examples. And then the final bucket is AI infrastructure companies. And that's the largest bucket of companies working with us. It ranges from providers of data to data labeling and cleaning companies, to model building companies like Sentient and Pond, to AI inference providers like Fala and Aura, to agent networks like Theoric and many others. So all in all, more than 300 companies building on top of us.
Wow, that's a lot, and it looks like many trusted companies are behind Zero-G Labs.
Yeah, I should actually mention too that especially on the Korea side, Samsung Next has also invested in us, and we have many kind of key influencers working with us as well on the Korea side. So very excited about the Korean market, and I'll actually be speaking at the AI conference next week as well in Korea next Wednesday.
So next question would be for the user side. What would be the main reason why the user need to use the Zero-G Labs?
Yeah, it's essentially a question around why do we need decentralized AI in the first place? Because why can't I just go to ChatGPT or OpenAI and utilize all of their software? One way to think about it is that centralized AI is actually closed AI, which ironically OpenAI is closed AI, because you have no visibility into where the data came from, who labeled the data, what data you used, what the weights and biases of the model are, what the censorship decisions are, how you align to a particular model, which version of the model you're getting. You know none of that. It's a completely black box process, and you have to essentially trust one entity to provide all of that for you. Versus decentralized AI, which is what we're building, you can fully verify. You have complete provenance, you know where the data came from, who labeled it, what data is being used, how this model was trained, how this model is behaving in action. And so this is especially important for what we call societal use cases. So if you have AI agents in the future running administrative systems, logistics systems, manufacturing systems, wouldn't you want to know how the model was trained, where it came from, how it's running in production? Because what could happen is you could say, okay, I'm going to spoof a particular model, and then just you're expecting ChatGPT 4.0 to be there, but I'm just going to plug in a different stream and have like my version 7 billion parameter model. And the issue is when that happens, you can either introduce bias, or if you're, for example, as an AI agent running an airplane kind of terminal, and that could be the difference between an airplane crashing into another versus taking off successfully. And so we want to make sure that AI is consistently secure and fully aligned with human beings' needs. And therefore, we believe there's no future in AI without the utilization of blockchains and decentralized AI.
So yeah, following the previous question, the next question would be, so I think the most important thing in Zero-G Labs technology infrastructure would be, also securing users. So I'm curious whether there are any plans, I would say unique plans for Zero-G Labs or incentives for securing also and drawing users into your ecosystem.
Yeah, we are going to have a lot of initiatives around building out a very vibrant ecosystem. Already with our testnet V2, we've crossed more than 10 million transactions per day, and we've had more than 8,000 or so validators for 120 slots. So that's about 67x oversubscribed. And so we've already seen a lot of demand for what we're building, which we're really excited and grateful for. That being said, we can't stop there. We need to make sure that the ecosystem keeps expanding and that people within Web3 really get to utilize our technology stack. And so some of the initiatives are at the very early stages. We have an accelerator. We've partnered with One Piece Labs on the first batch. The most successful company coming out of the first batch is a company called Carve. They've surpassed at their height about 1 billion FTV. And so we're really excited about them and really grateful that they've been part of the ecosystem and came through the accelerator. So our plan is to have more than 4 accelerators a year, but that'll take a bit of time to kind of ramp up to. Then post our mainnet launch, we want to put in place an ecosystem fund to support later stage builders as well. And then we of course have our traditional business development efforts as well as our ecosystem efforts. We'll be present at major conferences. We'll have lots of regional events to invite hackathon participants to build on top of our platform. So it's a very multi-pronged approach to building a very vibrant ecosystem.
So, and then the next question is also, I guess, kind of connected. I think the main purpose for somebody that buys a node will be eventually realizing a profit at the end of the day. When would you plan to have a TGE? And also, I'd like to know, I think you have explained before, but if you have any other plan after TGE to kind of activate more of Zero G Labs ecosystem?
Yeah, so TGE, we have to basically plan the mainnet alongside token release as well. And so there's quite a bit of work to be done on making sure that that's very successful. And so we're ensuring that we have the right team that's ready, we have the right technology that's ready, we have the right ecosystem partnerships that are ready for all of that. So we're targeting about the first half of next year for all of that. So the node sale has basically been 24/7 for us. And so then TGE will also be 24/7. We've been expanding the team quite a bit. We'll be about 50 people by end of the year already, and then kind of continuously growing. But the node that you mentioned is we do have a AI alignment node sale. And the whole purpose behind that is to decentralize the network. And so instead of doing what a lot of projects have done, where you take 15% of your token supply, you airdrop it to your users, and you do kind of a spray and pray approach, and then you hope people come to your ecosystem as a result. We want to be a lot more targeted, because making AI a public good and making decentralized AI the primary way that users interact with AI is not a 1 year or 2 year initiative. It's a 10-year plus initiative to actually get fully right. It is going to take us even just 2 to 3 years to catch up with centralized AI players. So we want very long-term participants. And so our whole design philosophy was we want owners rather than takers. And so in order to incentivize owners the right way, we wanted to make sure that there's very attractive entry points into the Zero-G ecosystem so that everybody wins. The users win, Zero-G as a network wins, and then the ecosystem partners win as well. So it's a very well-structured, thought-through approach. And I remember, I think one Korean influencer actually also did a profit and loss analysis and basically concluded that all the early tiers break even essentially at TGE, and even the mid tiers break even after 6 months or so. And so for people that are participating in a node sale, we want them to be long-term excited participants of the Zero-G ecosystem, and of course be rewarded for providing this critical infrastructure on our network.
Question 6. So you've described AI alignment nodes as having a unique role within a Zero-G network. So what unique functions does the node perform compared to the other nodes? And how do these functions contribute to maintaining the data integrity of the network? Yeah,
initially those nodes basically just check if the storage nodes or the data availability nodes are running as expected, or even the service marketplace nodes are running as expected. Over time, as we conclude some of our fundamental research, we have a few research initiatives happening at the same time. One is around decentralized compute. Another one is around AI alignment. Once those research pieces become engineering problems, let's say 6 to 12 months from now, then we can take those research learnings and then integrate them into the AI alignment nodes. And our goal is with those nodes that they eventually can spot things like, is an agent misbehaving? Was there a data poisoning or injection attack? Because if you inject a lot of data into a model, for example, you say like, hey, I'm Nike, I'm going to approach ChatGPT or OpenAI, pay you multiple $billion so that you can say every time somebody asks, like, which sports shoe should I buy? That they say, hey, it should be a Nike sports shoe. They're the best. We want to prevent stuff like that with our AI alignment nodes. And so over time, we want to upgrade the functionality. And so therefore, then data integrity can be maintained because we would basically see those types of attacks and then let the model builders know, hey, this is happening. You need to pay attention to this and not include this piece of data.
I never thought about that scenario, but I think it's pretty interesting. And then here comes the last question. So basically, the user is wondering about the main roadmap that will be coming up very soon, and also if that includes airdrop, TGE, or community incentives program also too.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, getting to TGE first half of next year is really top of mind, and we're trying to move as quickly as we can. There's a number of pieces on the technology end that we need to finalize. We just announced our service marketplace, so basically making sure that that's ready. We need to make sure the storage nodes, the data availability nodes, any of the other kind of ecosystem partnerships are all ready for mainnet. So that's kind of key Q4, Q1, Q2 basically approaches. Then within the first 2 to 3 years, we want to make sure that we're on parity with centralized AI so that we can do exactly the same things that you could if you go to OpenAI. It's as easy to use decentralized AI as it is to use centralized AI. And my expectation is 2 to 3 years before that happens. After that, we can then utilize blockchain superpowers. We can utilize cryptoeconomic incentives and disincentive mechanisms to then align models. We can use verifiability. We can use technology like FHE, for example, to then even have personally identifiable data completely on chain, like your health data, so that if somebody is asking like, hey, does this person have a specific issue, without revealing who this person is or more about them, they can then determine yes or no. And so we can make a lot of these really cool use cases actually happen after that. So that's on the technology side. On the research side, I mentioned decentralized compute is something we're looking at. How can we utilize the 200 million plus consumer devices for doing things like model training? Very difficult problem to figure out. How can we utilize blockchain economic security because blockchains were designed for adversarial systems in the alignment of these AI models? Also difficult research problems. That's on the research end. And then on the ecosystem end, we're primarily focused on really deepening our ties and strength in regional ecosystems, such as Korea, for example. And so there's going to be a lot of programs that we're building towards that. And then from an incentive structure perspective, the node sale is one of these incentive structures, and there's additional rewards that are allocated to that. One of the key things we also want to do is any of the projects that are building on top of us and coming through our accelerator, that they are also providing additional rewards to either our stakers or people that have our AI alignment nodes as well. So it'll be kind of a great win-win virtuous circle, if you will.
So the more projects building on top of Zero-G Labs, the more incentives the users can receive, correct?
Correct.
So we covered all the 7 questions so far. So much appreciated for coming by. So could you leave your last word for Fire community?
감사합니다. Thanks for including me as part of this AMA. It was very fun and really excited about meeting many of you. We do have a Korean-speaking channel on our Discord as well, so please check it out. If you go to zerog.ai and look for our Discord information, please join. Also follow us on Twitter or X. My personal X is just @m and last name Heinrich, and then it's @0g_labs for the main Zero-G X handle. So very excited about collaborating with you, meeting you in Korea. So thanks again for having me.
Okay, so thank you for coming by, and it was great to have you here. So we'll wrap up our AMAs here. Thank you.